Hey, and welcome back, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Journey Beyond podcast. I know it has literally been such a long time since we've last heard of each other or seen each other over the camera, but here I am. And in full transparency, let me, just before we even start this short episode off, let me apologize to you. Apologize on one hand, because I have taken so long to find myself and to find like the real essence of why I wanted to do this podcast in the first place, why I started this podcast in the first place. And after a while, when you're in the game of podcasting, you get so much into production and just into just doing that you don't really have time to think about and reflect on what is your vision for this podcast? Why did you start in the first place? What was the first intent, the first mission, the first attempt that you started this podcast with? And for me, it was very clear in the beginning that I wanted to podcast because I wanted to get my word out. I wanted to have a platform where I could just communicate my thoughts. I could communicate my values throughout this and maybe use this as a platform to kind of leverage what is going on in my mind. And I did that at first. It started off really well. I did 6 months of podcasting. I had quite some cool guests on. But after a while, I felt like I was just doing it because I had to do it, not because I truly wanted to do it. So what did I do? I took some time off. And I think that was the best decision that I could have possibly taken for this platform and for this podcast, because so much happened in between. And because so much happened in between, I had great opportunities and great chances to really get back to the essence of what is this Journey Beyond podcast about. So first of all, within the last year that you haven't heard of me, it has been pretty much exactly a year, July last year, I have actually graduated and I have finished my 3-year education in NLP coaching, and identity work coaching. So that's already a big milestone. I was going through a lot of interesting education phases over the last year or over the last 2-3 years that took so much time of me, where within that process, my thoughts and my ideas of what I wanted to communicate over with the community here actually changed entirely as well. So I had to redefine it a little bit. What do I want to talk about? Do I just want to blabble onto everything that comes to my mind, or do I want to have a little bit of structure behind it? Because what actually happened to me whenever I got into that field of, I'm learning about identity, I'm learning about how identity works, what it is made of, how humans actually behave, and what you can tell from their behavior or the way that they have been brought up. There were so many new doors that opened in my mind that said, wow, actually, let's explore that field and let's see what this new field actually brings to me. Next, I finished my NLP coaching degree. So with NLP and all of the fields of coaching in that mental space, being able to help people with different techniques and methods, and learning so much about intra-communication between two human beings, of how to ask the right questions, how to, actually define a away from or towards to goal. How can you actually name a problem? Because, as Albert Einstein once said, naming the problem solves already half of the problem. So here comes the solution to my problem and to my inner mental struggle of what should I do this podcast about? And over the last 6 to 8 months, it became very, very clear that the next time I jump in front of the camera, the next time I do sit in front of a microphone and I let my voice speak, it will be with purpose and determination. Because this year has been such a blessing for me in so many different areas, in so many different layers, and igniting the spark of getting back behind the camera. After finishing my coaching degree, after learning about identity coaching, after going through some pretty transformative phases within the work, my full-time job that I quit around a couple of months ago, to really pursue my passion, to pursue my own dreams of becoming a coach, an identity coach, I went to Colombia for 3 weeks. I traveled around Colombia with my girlfriend, and that trip truly changed my life. Not only because I got to see a different part of the world through completely different eyes, because it was an entirely planned out trip. We spent 5 to 6 days in the jungle, in the Amazonian rainforest, traveling, hiking, exploring, really the beauty of nature, riding over the Amazon River with a boat, staying in little natural reserves within the jungle, entrenched in nature, with poisonous spiders, with snakes, with everything. Like, if bro, if I could imagine, like, if I could tell you, I don't even know if I could find the words for that, but the amount of insects and the amount of trillions of mosquitoes within that jungle, that constant sweating because it was over 90 degrees humidity in there and 28 degrees during the day, 25 degrees during the night. It was so mind drenching. It really changed my perception of what true struggle really feels like. And on top of that, it taught us, me, like my girlfriend and I, and specifically me, a different layer of what human capabilities are really made of, like what your mind and your body can endure before it's really tired. And why am I telling you this? Not because I want to tell you about that, the vacation that I had, but we ended at that jungle because the jungle was the first 5 days of our trip, and everything after that is we traveled throughout the country. Medellin, we went to the north, to the Caribbean Sea, and stayed there in a park, in a natural park, somewhere in tents at the middle of the, like, at the coasts, in the middle of nature, in paradise, literally. And but when we finished our 6 days travel through the Amazonian rainforest, we ended this trip in Leticia with an ayahuasca ceremony with an original shaman somewhere in the middle of the rainforest. And this experience, it's not my first ayahuasca experiences. I'm open to share about that because like, those experiences and those trips have literally changed my life and who I am and how I see myself forever. Literally, they made a man out of the boy. And but this was actually the first experience or plant experience with the grandmother that I have taken in the Amazonian rainforest of Colombia, where it comes from. And this trip, where I'm probably going to take an entire episode just talking about the experiences that I've had with the plant, that trip changed my entire perception on myself, because before that I was scared. I was scared to take that first leap, to go back into podcasting, to start my own business, to quit my full-time job, to leave my security layers around me, and just go for what I really wanted. But I was too scared because if you're living in a society like we are living in today, money determines your level of perception of security and well-being, like, within your day-to-day life, right? If you have that security net of health insurance, social security, pension funds. I don't even know if we're still going to have pension when I get to that age, but money that comes in constantly, where you can pay off your bills, you can pay off your fixed costs. That alleviates the pressure of life so much. Because if you don't have the safety net of recurring income, you gotta work. You gotta make a time count. And if you don't properly do that, well, then anxiety comes in, fear kicks in of, like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna make this right? But this trip in the Amazonian rainforest showed me that I can do anything and I don't need to be scared because I'm eternally guided. Like, no matter what I do, I'm protected, I am guided, and I can just truly lean into and lean forward into my dreams and my visions, and I can make them work. So, summing up that short anecdote of my trip to Colombia, that was the starting point for me. Because after that, I came back to Europe, I came back to Luxembourg, and everything just changed. I knew what I wanted to do, I knew what I had to do, and everything just became a no-brainer. Within, I think, 2 weeks, I sent in my resignation for work. I still have a part-time job right now that I started, that I really, really love, but it's just basic 2 to 3 days a week, fixing or filling the gap, and it's really easy work, so I don't feel like I'm drained after the 8 hours that I'm there. But yeah, so a lot of things happened, I learned a lot about identity work and identity coach. So I started my coaching business. I started working on my coaching business already 6 months ago, but I truly launched my coaching business with some trial periods around literally 2 days after I came back from Colombia. So since the end of March until now, July, I was working a little bit in the shadows. I was testing out my skills. I was, offering free coaching to truly narrow in of what I want to work with and what I want to do. And it all narrowed down from, a very broad spectrum over to something so specific and so niche focused that I was like, wow, now it is truly time to go for the next step, to get over, like, to get my ass out of my comfortable chair and saying, I don't need a podcast anymore. Now, fuck you, Tim. You need a podcast. You are truly, literally made for doing podcasts. Stop comparing yourself to people who have great studios and to people who have like all of the resources to make a super high quality podcast, because you miss 100% of the chances that you don't take. So if I don't go for recording an episode and never put one out, I can never expect people to actually like my podcast, for me to get more resources to actually at some point do it on a high professional, high potential level. So long story short, I launched my coaching business, and I am now, to give you the elevator pitch, I'm an identity coach that focus on conscious individuals between the age of end 20 to end 30 who have done all the work, who have read all the books, but still feel stuck in their life. And identity work, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful areas that you can work in, because I've realized over the last 3 months, working with dozens of people and offering dozens of free coaching just to get some feedback on whatever I'm doing, if it resonates, if it works. And I found out that it actually does work really, really well, because identity work is the foundational layer of whatever you do in life. Identity, first of all, gets set together between your identity as a whole is an accumulation of many different factors that determined your life from the get-go, from the moment you were born. It is a combination between your socioeconomic background, your parental upbringing, your environment, where you're living, what the area is that you're living in, how your family and the values that your family have been raised with, your education. To what school did you go? How were the people around you? How were the teachers? How was the discipline over there? Your friends and family, the environment that you create for yourself. And from this point on, there's already so many factors that determine and that define who you are. A lot of times, I heard this beautiful quote. I cannot remember who it was from, but I think it was either Alan Watts. Yeah, I think it was from an Alan Watts video that I've watched years ago. He said that 50% of our life we spend unlearning who we think we are. And the rest of the years, the other 50%, we actually spend by learning who we truly were meant to become. So if you think about this, is that 50% of our life, or for some people their entire life, they spend unlearning and deprogramming the program that has been ruling their life since they were born. Because the values that your parents brought to you, or the values that your parents taught you when you were born, are the values that you pick up for yourself. The lessons, the environment, the school friends that you have, their values and their environment shapes who you think you are. Into the bottleneck comes then a bunch of trauma that you've maybe experienced, some father wounds or parental divorces that happened, that in the age when you were between 4 to 7, your brain and your consciousness shapes, and it at this point defines what you perceive as reality, as your life. So whatever happens within those years and within your young teenage years, you soak up and you soak up and you soak up. And your conscious mind, if it's too much information and too much emotionally overlayered, you put it back in the back of your mind to process it later. It's literally opening a drawer and saying, all right, like this is too much for me right now. This divorce, whatever is happening. I just put all of the unprocessed emotion and unprocessed trauma into this drawer. I close the drawer and I will look at it later whenever I have the time. The problem is we are so caught up as humans in our society that we never truly have the time. We never truly take the time to assess who are we. So what happens over the course of 10, 20, 30, 40 years, this pressure, this drawer starts shaking because it's like, hello, you promised us like 25 years ago that you would, give us some attention and give us some awareness, but you never do. And at a certain moment, this bottleneck flips and it breaks. And the water just spills over. And what happens? You find yourself in a situation in your adult years where you've read all the books. You're so interested into personal development. You're so interested into learning for yourself. What do I want to do? You define your goals. You say, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I want to become this person. But your old system, your old program does not allow you, because there is still this closed drawer that has become so big that it is literally taking in the space of any other drawer that could potentially fill with that new identity, the new version of you that needs to be in order for you to make this dream work. So this is where I found for myself that identity work has one of the most interesting aspects of coaching. And I determined for myself that I want to help individuals, help people like you, because my first coach was an identity coach, and he helped me to redefine who I wanted to be, who I was, helped me to deprogram, to reprogram. And I want to do the same for you. I want to be able to help people like you who have done all the work, who feel like they're standing with one foot outside the door, one foot in the door, and pulling from two sides on the same rope, not getting anywhere, stuck. I want to help you get into alignment. I want to help you realize the process that it needs for you to uncover what has been holding you back, what has been manipulating you and sabotaging you over the period of your entire life, or since the start of that aspect of your identity. And from there onwards, I want us to work with those inner parts that make up your identity, to deprogram them, to assess what is going on. What are they not hearing? What are those two parts? That part that wants to perform and make that vision work, and that part that is still stuck in that drawer that doesn't really feel heard and kind of like holds you back like a massive anchor. What are those parts not hearing about each other? How can we bring them into harmony? And then from there, implement a new and stronger you. So that is my mission here. Hence, I set out to say, all right, I want to get back into the podcasting game because this is the perfect platform to get my ideas out. And exactly this is what I want to do. I am committing to doing podcasts on a regular basis again. They're going to be in this format here, maybe some other format at some point, but there will be my thoughts. There will be tips and tricks on identity work. There will be the core foundational layers of what you need to hear and to have in order for you to in order to change something in your life and to lead a better, healthier, and more conscious life. So that is my commitment to you. That is my commitment to myself. To set out, to turn on this camera, bring out this mic, this beautiful mic that I spend a lot of money on, to actually take my God-given gifts, put them out, and say, here I am, bold, honest, and just purely authentic. And this is what I have to say. So get ready for another beautiful season of the Journey Beyond podcast. Get ready for some more beautiful thoughts and inspirations and guests and everything around. And just get ready to change and dive right into this journey. The Journey Beyond podcast. And with this being said, thank you all for tuning in today. If you have any questions, reflections, hit me up on Instagram. That's the place where I am the most active. You'll be seeing much more content from me there in the next weeks and months. And if you're interested and want to know more about identity work, and you have maybe an issue or a question that you want to get solved, reach out to me either over tim-coaching@proton.me or hit me up on Instagram, and let's get to work. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a beautiful rest of your day.